All right, let's go.
Grexit, 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 Grexit.
All
Yeah.
right.
So we were chatting about. Sorry, this is the after party. Yeah. I was upset that we didn't get to talk about the Greek exit, which was the biggest news for this week. But let's face it. Let's just do it now.
Yeah,
It's fine.
absolutely.
Yeah. So can I just say this is bringing me hope that one day we'll be able to kick Tasmania out.
It might be a vain hope.
It's a long-standing dream of mine.
Yeah. Maybe before we get
should
into it.
somehow just arrange for a bunch of very strong ships, like massive ships, to literally tow Tasmania away from Australia
Yeah.
as far as possible.
Yeah. Just drag it out into the Bass Strait, like, you know, even further. I mean, before we get into it, we should explain what the background is of all of this. So,
Okay.
you know, the bottom line is, do you want to do it? I'll do
No,
it.
I want to hear your version of this.
Okay. So, essentially, the Greek government has borrowed too much money. It's used its place within the EU to great effect to essentially go well truly deeply into the welfare state. It's run out of money, and because it's part of the euro, it can't do what it ordinarily do, which is just start printing more of it. So they have to essentially come up with a deal with their creditors, or the creditors are going to turn off the money, and they're going to have to, they're just unable to pay their debts. That's the background of it all.
Indeed.
Well, yeah, except you missed the part where they lied about.
Oh yes, that's true. Yes,
to get into the Greek, to get into.
They lied about what?
So
lied about
there's a
their
whole bunch of,
assets.
as part of the different treaties,
really?
EU
That's
treaties.
fun. Oh.
Yeah, basically as part of the whole EU treaties, there was you're only supposed to spend a certain amount,
Yeah.
like in deficit spending and all.
Can
There's
I
all these
say at the
theoretical, restraints on the amount of money they could spend, and Goldman Sachs helped them cook the books so they can keep spend more
Curse
than they were
those
supposed
Goldman Sachs.
Yeah.
Grr.
Well, in this
alright.
case,
So
it's not just boogeymen; they actually did help them.
I know.
So my favorite thing was I was looking at. So people were saying the pension's the pension age is too low because the
Yes.
pension age there is 55, but it drops down to 50 if you are a member of one of 450 professions. Now
And
I
it
was
drops down to something like 45 if you have 3 kids.
I did not know about that, but
Yeah.
okay,
Well,
wow.
look, I'm going on anecdotal evidence here.
Oh,
As
yeah,
A
but,
Greek friend of mine told me this a week ago, but go on. Anyway.
You know what they say about trusting Greeks.
Well, look, he's not a Greek, he's an Australian Greek, so he may not know if it's, the case. He's hearing it hearsay too. Anyway, go on. The point is, it's really quite incredible.
Yeah, so the point is basically, if I recall correctly, and I
People
do.
are retiring far too early, in short.
In
They're
the
not
sh-
working.
Well, yeah,
And
there's
they're
that.
They're living on the taxpayer.
There is that. But when I was looking at the list of 450 professions,
Yeah.
I'm just like most Australians would fit into one of those 450 dangerous professions. And in fact,
Hairdressers, I think. Fit into
hairdressers fit into it. Grocery workers fit. Well, grocery, the people that fill the
Shelf stackers.
shelf stackers, yeah. So they fit into it. Yeah, let's just say, there's a large number of people that fit into
This
this.
is obviously not designed to have anything to do with danger at all. It's designed to win votes.
Yeah,
But,
pretty much. Or no, it actually could have been designed for dangerous people, but democracy,
some
how
point.
that works,
Yes.
yeah. So
It expanded and expanded and expanded.
yeah, so
And I guess one of the issues here that you could say is going on is that yes,
They
the
just
Greek
don't have
electorate
taxes.
is very foolish, but should they really pay for their mistakes? I mean, isn't there a case for debt forgiveness? Why should tax? I mean, after
okay,
all,
so I actually want to tackle this debt forgiveness thing because
and plus taxation is theft. But go on.
No. So this debt forgiveness thing. So
Yes.
this was an idea that Thomas Piketty. So I tend to hate when Thomas Piketty comes up because he's always the left love him, so he gets a lot of
Yes.
media attention,
Yes.
but he only ever half thinks his position.
Oh
right?
dear.
He
All
doesn't-
right.
he never considers.
And Vickers will complete his thoughts. Go on, Vickers.
I will complete his thoughts. So,
Yes.
and this is so I brought this up, right, because people were posting the Guardian who were all going about, oh,
The
look,
case for debt forgiveness,
the case for debt forgiveness.
Germany had it the same.
Germany had it the same, and how dare Germany forget their debt forgiveness?
Yes.
Germany didn't have a freaking government, right?
Yeah.
They really didn't, right? They did not have the ability to pass their own laws until like 1972. Right, I'm sitting there going like, and the first instance of German welfare state started coming around in 1976. 1976 was when they got public health care, right? So I'm just like, you don't understand, right? This is a country that had no government. The constitution was completely rewritten by the Allies. There was a puppet state put in place. People did not have democratic control of their government, right? Flash forward to Greece now, right? They just had a bloody vote saying we are not going to accept these, conditions.
Yes, yes.
Right? So we're talking about two completely separate things. And if I will 100% buy Thomas Piketty's argument, if we get rid of the Greek government.
Wow. I'm sure John Humphreys would have liked to have heard that. But go on.
No, in fact, I'm pretty sure everybody's just going to sit there and go like, "Wait, what? Vickers said what now?" It's
Yes.
like, I'm serious. I will buy Thomas Piketty's entire argument for debt forgiveness if we get rid of the Greek government.
Yeah, that's it.
Right?
And I mean, and
Scrap
the
their constitution, scrap their government, scrap the entire welfare state. Right?
Yeah.
Basically, they're a puppet state for the EU. I will agree with them. Forgive their debt.
yeah.
But,
And I mean, that's
but
the issue.
thing
If you
is,
forgive
EU
their
is
debt,
not exactly it's a welfare statist organisation that will run Greece to the ground.
yeah,
The point I would make
Fine.
is that
That's fine. It's the Germans paying for it at that stage. I don't.
okay.
I am 100% fine with Germany bailing out every Greek state. I'm totally fine with that.
Look, I would say that there is a case for debt forgiveness, and that's quite simply that the Greeks of today, particularly the youth of today, are assuming all of these obligations which they haven't really paid for. It's intergenerational theft. The elderly have
Welfare's a bitch
stolen
like
from
that.
the poor, and the reality is that we shouldn't abide by it, and we shouldn't accept that.
yeah. Except that if you forgive the debt, then essentially you're transferring the debt, the person who pays the debt from the Greeks to
The
German and
next
French
generation.
and the future generations of the other countries in Europe who are the ones who are on the hook for this stuff. So
That's true.
You know,
And there is,
Which is what-
there is, in fairness, a case for the view that debt forgiveness only prolongs the problem,
yeah,
and only
Which brings me to my solution.
by
the
which I
Greek
mean
exit.
yes, thank you. Because just a moment. It prolongs the problem, by which I mean that it will only encourage more welfare statist policies and more overspending and more debt, more deficit, etc. It will lead to Greece digging itself into an even bigger hole. There is a case for that view. I seem to remember an article by Thomas Sowell on that, comparing how African nations who have had that experience are still running themselves into the ground to this day, as compared to some other nations who didn't get that kind of good treatment. But I could be wrong. That could be just a half-remembered thought. Anyway, go Vickers.
It could
What do
be.
you-
So and okay, so I'm a huge fan of the Greek exit option, and I'm unashamedly going to go behind that wagon, and it's going to be for two reasons. Firstly, I actually think it's going to be better for Greece in the long run. Like, I honestly believe that, right?
How's
So,
that? Go on.
so the reasons why I believe this is because the European Union is a regulatory hellhole. I
That's true.
think, yeah.
But there is freedom of movement within its compartment.
You don't need the freaking EU to have
That's
freedom
true.
of movement.
That's
You really
true.
don't.
That's true.
I mean, there was freedom of movement between like England, France, Germany, Belgium, and
That's
Amsterdam.
right. Switzerland's part of the European community, and it
And
has freedom
Switzerland.
of movement.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
But is there residency rights as well?
But that's
There you go.
That's
That's the
where it
thing,
gets a
because
bit-
that's the right to
that's where
work
it
and
gets-
live there. That's important. That's an important aspect of free trade, Vickers.
so you don't. Really
I'm not
need
saying
to.
you're wrong. I'm just saying there's costs and benefits.
There's costs and benefits. So there's nothing saying without the EU you can't have that. That's going to be my
That's
counter.
true. That's true.
But let me get to a real world example of what I'm talking about. So Argentina was it 2000? I'm tempted to say 2000. In 2000 they had like a massive default because they were like hugely into debt. And it was because of like basically very debt fueled sort of government growth during the 90s, which people were calling like the Argentinian miracle at the time, where they kind of doubled their GDP in the space of like, if I recall correctly, it was like 3 or 4 years, and then it kind of just stagnated, right? Because it was built on government debt, essentially.
Yep.
Right? And government debt is not sustainable.
No.
It's never been sustainable. So they ended up defaulting in 2000, and there was a lot of pain. They shed something like 50% of their 50% of their GDP in the space of 18 months. It's horrible. People were looking at it going, "Oh fuck, Argentina's gone." But now, 2013, right? Their GDP per capita was $14,700, right? They were 40% higher. Yeah, they were 40% higher in the space of 10 years than where they started. Now, they haven't completely grown back, but they're in a slightly better place than they were before, right? And the thing is, if you take a look at this on a graph, if you draw like an elliptic, if you draw a curve of best fit, you'll actually find the curve of best fit is relatively close to what you would expect with a 4% growth rate, right? Which is good. We're only growing at about 2% per year.
Well, look, I mean, there are advantages, and you could list them. You could say, well, first of all, no, they don't have to pay the debt, which means that's less government expenditure right there. That means, all else being equal, Greeks, are spending more of their time on what they want to do with their lives rather than paying off foreign debtors. So that's an advantage.
The problem right now is that the Greeks are spending a little bit too much time with what they want to do in their lives.
Productively, they'll have an opportunity to spend it more productively.
Yeah.
Well, actually,
cash in their hands is better than cash in the government's hands.
Actually, that was one of my points, right? One of the big advantages of the Greek exit is that they can effectively compete on regulatory grounds with the EU.
Yes, indeed.
And I think that gives them a huge advantage, particularly against Eastern Bloc countries, which are relatively close to them in terms of industrial capacity.
Indeed.
So,
except it would require them to
of course,
deregulate their
it gives
economy.
an advantage to exporters in Greece, because we can assume that the price of the drachma will drop once the drachma is issued.
Yeah, because they'll print it like crazy.
Drop?
Yes.
You mean fall like a comet through the earth? Yes, it will drop.
And that will in turn also encourage tourism, which is key Greek industry. Now, that having been said, local manufacturing to the local market and imports will be more expensive. So maybe there's a trade-off there, but who knows? Maybe people will be better off this way.
I mean, that's true, but it can only make up so much for the fact that they've got a hugely regulated economy. I mean, and if you look at, that's what kills enterprise. It's you can have a big welfare state. Like, I mean, you look at Scandinavia, they have a big welfare state is because they have a really free business environment. You know, they have some of them even got minimum wages. Like, don't think Norway has a minimum wage, or Sweden.
No, they don't. But they have compulsory unionism.
Well, yeah, okay. So I mean, they're not. It's not, laissez-faire, but they have very friendly business environments.
Cool. At least for lawyers.
And different ones. So I think Denmark is very, very easy to start businesses, very easy to run them. So yes, you can have a big welfare state. What matters also is the regulatory environment for work and for all of that. And Greece is currently not in a good place. And until you fix that, you can have all the currencies in the world in Greece, but that won't fix those problems. Like, you really, I mean, what's the value of a Somalian dollar? It's nothing, but because, the business environment, it would be the same in Africa. Like, all those countries have worthless currencies, but because the business environments are so hostile to any form of enterprise,
then no one's buying anything.
It doesn't matter.
No one's selling anything either.
Yeah. So, I mean,
but that's the main advantage of the Greek exit. I mean, they're encouraged to have their own regulatory regime.
They
Yes,
could.
which
Yeah.
will hopefully be less stringent. I see
Yeah.
your point.
Yeah.
Of course,
Well,
that's
certainly.
part of the reason why they haven't been able to balance the books is that they haven't been able to deregulate. But will this offer even more incentive?
Well, I mean, I think
guess maybe.
I don't think the EU regulates labour much. I mean, I know they've got lots of stupid regulatory stuff, but you know, there's
You'd
probably
never get the Scandinavian countries on board, basically.
yeah, like there's lots of stuff that doesn't
No,
get
what I'm
regulated
getting
from
at
Brussels.
is they haven't been doing it now and haven't been able to balance the books. Why would they be more willing to do it when they've left the EU?
Because now they don't have a tap of free money.
Yeah, having no money and having living standards shrink. Like, I mean, it's one thing to have low growth. It's another thing to actually for the economy to start shrinking, and that's what's going to happen. And that's painful, and you can't stop that from happening without change. So, it's the harshness of reality. It's going to suck to be to live in Greece for a long time, and people's savings are going to get wiped out, and all sorts of horrible things are going to happen. But you can't defy economic reality, and that's true of anything we talk about here on this show. Like if you talk about, I mean, my personal hobby horse is the property market. You can't defy economic reality forever. It gets to a point where something has to change. Otherwise, it just has to change. Like there's literally nothing you can do to stop it from changing. I mean, the GFC is a great example, and government's responses to it, like all this stimulus.
I think you underestimate our government's ability to restrict land.
Yeah, no, well, I think we'll get to the point where it's. I mean, and to be honest,
in that statement, it's just like you underestimate just how completely irresponsible our politicians.
Yeah, well, I don't think I do. Yeah. But I mean, it's like, I mean, Russ Roberts talking about this sort of thing. Russ Roberts from Econ Talkers made a good comment. He said, "This is what it looks like for civilization to begin to end. Like when you start to see these fascist parties and these communist parties coming on the rise." Yes. Using populist rhetoric to attack, to undermine.
There's the Golden Dawn there, and they're still quite strong, and that's very.
And it's because politicians have absolutely screwed the pooch. They've absolutely.
People are left with no futures in Greece, and the same thing is happening in Italy. The same thing,
and it will happen in Spain,
and to a lesser degree, but there's a big fascist movement in Italy,
and Eastern Europe as well. It's
Eastern Europe, yes.
So when you screw people's lives, they go looking for alternatives, and fascism and communism and all those sorts of horrendous.
They look for people to blame, and those are fascism and communism offer very simple explanations for whom to blame.
Absolutely,
and
the rich
what to do
and
about.
The Jews.
Yes. Yeah. Hey.
Sorry, Zeev. We love you. It's
right.
Okay.
Yay. All right. Anyhow. I think it's about time to sign off. What do you guys think?
Yeah,
I think we've done this topic to death.
All right.
All right, cool.
Then the after party ends.
Yep.
See ya.
Right.